Hello and welcome to our live telephone town hall meeting. We've just got a couple of folks on right now, but we're dialing out to thousands of your neighbors in Texas's 33rd Congressional District right now. We'll be joined in a moment here by Congressman Mark Veasey, your congressman and representative to the U.S. Congress, here to answer your questions about what's going on in D.C., about coronavirus relief, any questions you may have on the census, or any other topics that you'd like to ask your congressman about. We'll hear some brief updates in a moment, but we'll spend most of our teletown hall today answering your questions. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to press 0 on your phone during this live teletown hall. Give your question to an operator, and we'll gladly take your questions live throughout this teletown hall forum. If you're not comfortable asking your question live, that's fine. You should still press 0 to submit that question to an operator, and then you can let your operator know if you prefer to have me read your question over the air instead of bringing your question live. Happy to do that for you, whatever's more comfortable for you. Again, just press 0 to submit a question for this live Q&A with your Congressman Mark Veasey. In just a moment here, we'll go ahead and hear from the Congressman. He'll give you some updates about what's going on in D.C., about coronavirus relief, and a few other topics. So you may even grab a pen and paper to write down the important information that you hear. And again, if you have a question on any of the topics that you hear or anything else, we'd love to take your questions for the remainder of this hour. Press 0 to submit those. You can also get email updates from Congressman Veasey by pressing 7 on your phone. So if you'd like to get email updates, be updated electronically moving forward, we'll keep you updated on all the issues that affect you in D.C. if you press 7 on your phone. Speak to an operator, give them your email address, and we'll be sure to get you those email updates. So once more, if you have a question that you'd like to submit for this live teletown hall with your congressman, press 7 on your phone. If you'd like to give us your email address to get email updates from your congressman, press 7 on your phone. If you'd like to submit a question, press 0. And we're going to go ahead and get started now. One more thing, if you need any contact information for your congressman, you can also press 0. Speak to one of our operators. They've got the district office phone numbers and email address if you need to contact somebody with Congressman Veasey's office. So again, 0 for questions, 7 to give us your email address for updates. It's my pleasure to kick off this live teletown hall for Texas's 33rd Congressional District by turning it over to your representative, Mark Veasey. Please go ahead, Congressman.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with everybody today. This is Mark. I'm your congressman for the 33rd Congressional District. And as many of you have already know, I am now on the Energy and Commerce Committee for the 116th Congress. Of course, when I started in Congress, I was on the Armed Services Committee and on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. So I always like to update people at the beginning of my speeches just to let people know that has changed. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join me on this teletown hall to discuss the important topics related to the Metroplex during these unprecedented times that we're all facing together. Right now, we're in this global pandemic, and it's literally impacting every community across the country. Just this past week, our country hit a very grand milestone. We now have over 150,000 dead, and we have millions that are facing eviction with no unemployment insurance relief to fall back on. And reports over the last few weeks have shown that COVID-19 cases and deaths are steadily rising here in the great state of Texas. These staggering and heartbreaking statistics have continued to rise since this pandemic took full swing in March of this year. And that's why my colleagues and I passed the COVID-19 response and relief efforts in both the CARES Act and the HEROES Act. And we have to continue to fight until we can successfully flatten the curve of this pandemic. A lot of people have been asking me, Mark, what's Congress is doing? What's Congress's response? And since the beginning of March, Democratic colleagues and I, we've passed several bipartisan economic relief measures, including sweeping packages that provide an unprecedented amount of resources to bolster public health by ramping up our ability to test and help ensure Americans can get access to quality health care. We've assisted small businesses, the backbone of America. It's small businesses that are the backbone of America. And we have assisted them by enhancing the Paycheck Protection Act, also known as PPP. We're helping families and workers by enhancing unemployment insurance and giving them direct payment. And also we've given relief to industries whose livelihoods have been impacted by this virus. Congress has also provided aid for student loan borrowers and funding for direct payment that will help many North Texas families. I have also worked on I recently had an opportunity to ramp up testing and break the testing backlog in Dallas County. Earlier this year, I led an effort with Judge Whitley over in Tarrant County to make sure that our frontline workers had hand sanitizer. I've also led multiple letter and legislative pushes to enhance protections and relief for small businesses that have been impacted by COVID. And I've also worked very hard to make sure that Texans can have the right to vote by mail during this pandemic. And I've also worked very hard to make sure that we bolster broadband access for low-income communities during the pandemic. And again, that was included in the HEROES Act package. And now we're at a crossroads, a crossroads that I'm very angered by. I just mentioned the HEROES Act package and some of the great things that are in HEROES Act, in the HEROES Act package. And Congress, we spent the last month negotiating with the White House on this package and on the next relief package. And unfortunately, as of this weekend, unemployment benefits have run out for millions of Americans here in Texas, and we're still at an impasse. It's just unacceptable, especially because the House passed the HEROES Act, which, again, was a very sweeping relief package in May, and it's just sitting at Mitch McConnell's desk. Mitch McConnell, as many of you know on the call, is the majority leader in the Senate. Literally, all those great things I talked about, expanding broadband, efforts to help our frontline workers, all of those things are sitting in Mitch McConnell's desk, and it is absolutely unacceptable. The Republicans have to work with us, and they have to do better. And now we're really over a cliff, and we're at a point that we shouldn't be. Even last week, as Republicans in the Senate knew that we had this looming crisis, they literally introduced an inadequate package that slashed benefits for unemployment and provided no relief at all to our state and local governments. And many of you know that's important because our state and local governments rely so heavily on our sales tax, and people aren't shopping and going out to eat as much as they were before, especially with as many people as that are unemployed. They got to get serious. They have got to get serious about stopping this crisis. They've got to get serious about working with us. They have to stop obstructing legislation that will help workers and families here in the Metroplex. Time is of the essence, and lives and livelihoods are on the line. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to the moderator and open it up to some questions. And I just want to remind everybody, again, we have to face this pandemic together. I would absolutely love to host in-person town halls. Many of you know that every August I host in-person town halls both in Dallas and Tarrant counties so people can come and address me in person. But we just can't do that right now. It's irresponsible to do that right now. I mean, you've heard the stories of people that have attended rallies like Herman Cain, for instance, people that are now dead because they attended rallies in person. We cannot do that. We have to be safe, particularly when we're indoors. And I cannot hold indoor rallies right now where there's no circulation and where the virus is believed to be able to linger from anywhere from seconds into minutes in areas that are enclosed with little circulation. It would be irresponsible of me to ask you to come to an indoor rally or to come to an indoor town hall or indoor anything right now. But I guarantee you that when we get past this and we work through this together as Americans, as we've overcome obstacles in the past, where we've had to ration during times of war, where we've had to pull together when in the face of natural disasters. We will get through this together, and when we do, I promise you that I will continue to provide in-person access and you will continue to see me at events, and you can come and ask me questions at in-person town halls. And now, again, we're about to open it up, and please ask me any questions that you want to. I know people want to ask me about unemployment. I know they want to ask me about heroes. So please ask me whatever questions you would like to about what's happening right now or anything else that you see fit. And I want to thank you again for spending part of your evening with me to ask questions and find out what's happening in D.C. at your nation's capital.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate the introduction, and thank you, everybody who's joined us from Texas's 33rd Congressional District. We just finished dialing over 55,000 households around the district. We appreciate you joining this teletown hall with your Congressman Mark Veasey. If you have a question you'd like to submit for Q&A, you can do that by pressing 0. If you'd like to get email updates from Congressman Veasey's office, do that by pressing 7 on your phone. Let's get our first question up here live from Alice in Grand Prairie. Hey, Alice, thank you for waiting. What's your question for us? Alice, can you hear me? Alice, are you there? All right, I'll go ahead and read Alice's number. Alice, you're on with Congressman Mark Veasey. Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yes, I do. Are we going to get another stimulus check?
Thank you.
That is of course, it would be great if we could give Americans another stimulus check. Right now, what we're working on, and you heard the package that I talked about, where we're trying to make sure that we can expand unemployment benefits for people out there that are in need of help. But absolutely, but yes, we do need to make sure that we have another stimulus check. I know that the first stimulus check was very helpful to so many workers out there, and that it allowed people to go and buy groceries, and that it allowed people the opportunity to be able to pay rent, make their car payment, because people just don't need to be stressed right now when it comes to figuring out how they're going to deal with this particular pandemic. So we're going to work hard to make sure that we can do that. We know that it's hugely important for Americans to be able to get another check. And again, if you look at what we did with the HEROES Act, I believe that we put in a second round of direct payments to families for this last round that we went, for this last HEROES package that we went through. I'll get the numbers for you in just a second, but we wanted to make sure that we can help families, and that's going to be something that I think that we're going to have to work on, not just now, but in the future as well, because this is going to be a virus that's going to take us a while to get through. I don't think that there's going to be a miracle cure. If you look at the history of these viruses, if you go all the way back to 1918, that was something, and that particular pandemic, it was something that lasted for over 2 years, and then it came back up again later. Of course, we've seen a lot of advances in science when it comes to viruses, but there are still a lot of viruses that are with us that absolutely have not been cured. We figured out a way how to manage them and continue to live with them. And we have to be patient during this time and realize that the most important thing is that we stay safe. But yes, we're going to continue to try to work to make sure that Americans can receive direct payments as far as second round of stimulus checks. Thank you for the question. That's a great question.
Yeah, appreciate the answer. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you again for that question from Alice. Let's get our next one up here right away from Wanda in Fort Worth. Hey, Wanda, you're live with Congressman Veasey. Go ahead.
Hello, Congressman. I appreciate you taking the time to have this town hall. It's much needed. So thank you, and thank you for your service. My question, I had several, but the one that regarding Trump's order, I don't know if it wasn't an executive order, but for lack of a better term, it was an order on July 21st that he put out not wanting to count undocumented immigrants. So we know that if that happens, or does not happen rather, that we will have a disproportionate misrepresentation in Congress. It's another form akin to gerrymandering, which is voter suppression. And also it will possibly reduce millions of dollars that would be allocated to communities that need those funds. So Texas, California, those states have a very large number, of course, of undocumented immigrants in Texas. What's being done to make sure that does not go forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question, because if we have even a 1% undercount in the census in the state of Texas over a 10-year period, we could lose billions of dollars. I mean, it's that serious. Everything from how much money kids get for schooling, to public health, being able to deal with public health crisis that we're talking about right now. All of those things and formulas are put together because of census. I would hate to have a situation that a state like Ohio, for instance, like a state that hasn't been growing, that's actually been shrinking in population, you would hate for them to get money that is supposed to come to us so we can build new roads. Everybody's seen the traffic and here in the Fort Worth, Dallas Metroplex lately, trying to get up I-35 or trying to, head up towards, Arlington, through Arlington to get to Dallas through rush hour or vice versa. I mean, everyone has seen traffic rules, and we need to make sure that there's an accurate count. The Census Office has told me that they are going to do everything that they can to get an accurate count. I met with the regional folks for the region that Texas is under, and they said that because of COVID, that there's going to be a delay in counting the number of individuals there's going to be a delay in counting the number of individuals here in the Metroplex and all around the country, for that matter, because of COVID-19. And so state legislatures, which normally receive their census numbers in February or March, will more than likely receive those numbers sometime in April or May, which will result in the Texas legislature probably end up having to the Texas legislature will end up having to go into a special session to probably do redistricting because of that. But that's okay. We need to make sure that we have an accurate count. What you heard the president say about a week or two ago about how he's going to say that undocumented can't be counted, he doesn't have the authority to do that. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court has already ruled that people that are undocumented have to be counted. The reason why this is occurring is because what the Republicans would like to do is that they would like for me to represent a district that has 800,000 people in it, and then they would only have to represent a district that has, let's say, 700,000 people in it. And so that's what's happening right now. If you look at politics, Republicans are struggling, even in the suburban areas where that used to be their stronghold. They're struggling in those areas. And instead of and they're using government, which you shouldn't do. You shouldn't mix government with politics. There's a reason why my campaign office is not ran inside of the congressional office. We keep those separated. And what the Republicans are trying to do is that they're trying to play electoral politics with the census because they're having a tougher and tougher time finding voters that are going to buy into the rhetoric that they are, so they want to try to make sure that people aren't counted, and it's just unfair. And we can't have that type of process, particularly, again, when our children's education, our public health, whether or not we're going to be stuck in traffic, all of those things result in us, it means that we have to have a very accurate census count, or we'll be the ones that suffer for the next 10 years, while states that haven't grown as fast as we have or that have actually shrunk will be the recipients of that, and that's just unfair.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Appreciate the answer, and really, really solid question. Thank you, Wanda, for being a part of our forum and for sharing that question with us. We'll go to our next question in just a moment, but I wanted to make sure that everybody on our call today understands where they can go to make sure that they participate in the 2020 census. You just heard Congressman Veasey describe how important it is. So if you want to take part in the census and you have not already, you can do that online by going to 2020census.gov. That's 2020 CENSUS 2020census.gov. Or if you need to call by phone in English, you can call 844-330-2020 and call in Spanish at 844-468-2020. I'll repeat that information before we get to the end of the call here, so grab a pen and paper if you didn't get a chance to write it down. We'll get our next question up right away from Raymond. Raymond in Fort Worth, thank you so much for waiting. You're on with Congressman Veasey.
Yes, sir. I would also like to extend my appreciation for your representation.
Thank you.
And my question is, I'm a senior citizen, and I've received mail-in ballots through the mail. Will I also continue to do that with this upcoming election, or do I need to do something to make sure that I do?
You will need to apply for you'll need a vote by mail application, so you can apply for a ballot to vote by mail in November. And what ends up normally happening on that is that different people running for office, political parties, they'll mail these applications directly to the house to people that are senior citizens or disabled, or you can go online and you can actually get a vote by mail application, and then they'll give you instructions on how to send the vote by mail ballot back. You're supposed to fill the ballot out, and this year, as you may know, because of a law that was passed in 2017 by the state legislature in Austin, we will no longer have straight ticket voting for Democrats or Republicans. And so, we're urging everybody to be sure they pay very close attention to from at the top of the ballot all the way down to the bottom of the ballot, no matter what party you may happen to be in, because that is something in the law that was recently changed. But you will receive a ballot, and you will need to fill it out from top to bottom, and then you will have to sign the ballot, and there will be a gray envelope that you're supposed to put the ballot in, and then there will be a yellow envelope that you put that in, and then you put a stamp on there, and you send it back. And it's that simple, and we know that there are going to be a lot of people this year in particular that are going to take advantage of that. Because of COVID-19, even people that are senior citizens that generally like to go and vote in person, they're probably not going to do that because of COVID-19. And so just make sure that you fill out your application as soon as you can. That'll be sometime in September, and request your ballot. And if there are any issues that you have, you should call the local elections administrator to ask them for help.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that answer. And thank you, Raymond. Thanks so much for your question. We'll get to our next question right away. Quick reminder here, though, if you'd like to get email updates from the Congressman, press 7 on your phone. Again, 7 if you'd like to get email updates from the Congressman moving forward. Let's get our next question up. We've got Philip waiting. Philip from Arlington, you're live on the line.
Hello. Thanks, Congressman Veasey, for letting me speak to you. Actually, I got more of a statement. President Trump has attacked Drs. Birx and Fauci and tried to discredit their truthful information. Mr. Trump has lied since day one about all aspects of the pandemic. He is a clear and present danger to the health of the citizens and economy of the United States. Please have your colleagues in the House and Senate join against this common enemy and demand his immediate resignation. Thank you.
Sir, as you know, I think I was just talking a little bit earlier about how this is a government call and not a campaign call, and so I want to make sure that I don't cross any lines when it comes to that. I will say that I do think that the president needs to do a better job of following the advice of the doctors that are advised, that work for the executive branch, that are charged with giving him advice. You probably saw today that he had a major disagreement with someone that's on the White House task force where he felt like he needed to insult this particular female doctor. He's been going back and forth with Dr. Fauci, and they've had serious disagreements and seem to not be on the same page. And again, a public health crisis should not be partisan at all. I'm not exactly sure how this public health crisis became so partisan and how wearing masks became partisan. It just ought to be something that we're all doing to try and stop the spread of this virus so we can hold our country together and keep people as safe as possible during this time period. So it's very disappointing, his behavior, and I wish that he would follow the advice of doctors. And just so people will realize that it's not a partisan deal, Mr. Conservative Republican himself, even Pat Robertson, said this morning on the 700 Club that the president needs to try to stop playing doctor and that he needs to listen to the doctors. So there you go. Thank you for your question.
Yep, thank you much, Philip. Appreciate you being on. And remind you can press 0 to submit a question. Many of you have. Thank you, everybody who submitted questions for our live Q&A here. We've got a half hour left. We'll keep going through these questions here. Thomas up next from Dallas. Hey, Thomas, thanks for being on. What's your question?
Hi. Given that there's been kind of the struggle in our society to try and get the everyday person to not only accept but practice the basic safety protocols that enable us to continue day-to-day life in this society, such as wearing a mask, staying a certain distance apart, it seems like the slightly larger protocols are meeting more barriers with the everyday person. Primarily, the difference between meeting indoors versus outdoors. I heard earlier you specifically mentioned why, despite your desire to meet in individual town halls, and have rallies indoors, how that's inherently unsafe in this situation, which is certainly something that not everyone realizes or says. But given how many social groupings there are, be they recreational, religious, or other, and how many of those occur indoors, it seems that is a particularly difficult aspect of pandemic protocol for people to grasp. And I was wondering if you had ideas or plans towards trying to implement manners of encouraging or educating the public regarding that specific aspect, given how much difference it is when you have air circulating in an open environment versus a locked, enclosed circulation system.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first of all, I think what needs to happen is that Democrats and Republicans, need to both be on the same page when it comes to this pandemic. I think that Fox News and CNN and Sinclair Media and MSNBC and all our major print newspapers and our radio broadcasters and Rush Limbaugh to the Joe show on the Power Network. I mean, all of these voices need to be on the same accord when it comes to making sure that we fight this and stop turning this into some sort of a partisan matter and thinking there's going to be some sort of political gain over telling people not to wear masks. So I think that needs to occur. And then we need, again, for our local leaders to make sure that they're on board with this and that our governors and in particular our county commissioners and our mayors, that they're doing everything that they possibly can to make sure that these rules are taking place and that they're being enforced and that people know that this is serious business. I mean, there have been restaurants, and I don't want to see anybody's restaurant get shut down, but I know in D.C. that there have been establishments that have actually lost their right to occupy their space or their lease or their building for a certain amount of time because they were violating the protocols that were put in place. So people need to know that we can all resume somewhat normal life, or at least that we can get back to doing some of the things that we like to a lot faster, like going to a TCU football game, or like going to see the Cowboys or Mavericks or whatever it may happen to be, that we can get back to doing all of those things, the faster we make sure that we are following all the rules to making sure that we're flattening the curve. If we're going to make fun of these rules, if we're not going to wear masks in public, if we're going to be defiant, then it's just going to make it a lot harder for us to be able to get this thing under control to where we can try to resume somewhat of a normal life.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Appreciate the answer, and really appreciate that last comment and question. A lot of great participation. I thank you so much, everybody. We are still in the process of getting everybody's questions, so if you press 0 to submit a question, my apologies if we haven't gotten an operator to you and gotten your question online yet. We are at about the halfway point in our call. If you'd prefer to just leave a voicemail message for the Congressman's office and get a call back on any issues that you're dealing with, any problems that you have, you can do that by pressing 9 on your phone or by staying on the line until the end of the forum here. By pressing 9, you'll go to the voicemail system, leave a voicemail, make sure you leave your name and contact info and any problems you're having, or just stay on the line at the end of the forum. And if we haven't gotten your question answered by then, you can stay on the phone, leave a voicemail message, and make sure you leave that contact info to get a call back. And remember, you can press 7 to get email updates from your Congressman's office. We're going to go to our next question. Let's see. Looks like Sharon just hung up. Let's get William. He's next in line. William from Fort Worth, you're up. Thank you for joining our live teletown hall. Go ahead with your question. Williams, we still got you there? All right. We've got Marie. Oh, actually, we've got a question coming from our Spanish simulcast broadcast. I'll read this one. This one, we are broadcasting this event live in Spanish as well, and this comes from Martin in Dallas, who's asking, is the additional $600 unemployment benefit going to continue with the HEROES Act? Congressman, could you take that one on from our Spanish simulcast?
Yes, no, absolutely. Yes, we are in HEROES. We absolutely do extend that unemployment. Right now, Republicans in Congress, they're playing games with extending the unemployment checks. As a matter of fact, they've even come up with a proposal to reduce it, which seems so completely out of touch considering the record number of people that we have unemployed in this country right now. There absolutely can be no reduction in this $600 unemployment. We need to extend it for as long as we possibly can because, again, we are going to have patience to get through COVID-19. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. And in the meantime, people need to be able to eat. People need to be able to buy groceries. People need to be able to pay their utilities. People need to be able to make their car payment and do everything else that they need that money allows them to do in the economic system that we have. In addition to that, someone earlier had asked a question about the second round of stimulus checks. In HEROES Act that we passed, again, that's sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, there's a second round of stimulus money that is in there. I know that Republicans and Democrats for the ongoing negotiations right now seem to be in agreement that there needs to be a second round of stimulus checks. Most of the disagreement is occurring over the unemployment checks that were just asked about. But we have to have both. We absolutely have to have both. And I know that Democrats, we want to make sure that dependents are covered as well in those stimulus checks that would give people some additional money. But if again, they have dependents that they're taking care of. Thank you for the question.
Yep, much appreciated. Thank you, Martin, for your question. Thanks for joining our Spanish simulcast. We've got our next question coming live from Jackie in Everman. Hey, Jackie, you're live on the line with Congressman Veasey. What's your question for us?
Yes. First, thank you, Congressman Veasey. I appreciate your hard work that you're doing in D.C. I support you 100%. My question is an inmate question. We have so many inmates who are dying in prison. I have a family member who is dealt with the COVID and has been sick and in hospital and in prison. And my question is, what do they plan to do? Are they going to release it? Oh, he's 65, and he has everything from dialysis 3 days a week now from the COVID-19, and also insulin and trach. He's had everything, and he's 65, and I don't know if he'll be able to stay, live if he continues or gets it again. So my question is, what do I do? Do I write? Who do I write? What do I do to try to help get him home where he can be in better care?
Yeah, no, that is a great question, and that is a question that I've received a lot. I have one federal penitentiary that is in the district that I represent in Fort Worth off of Wichita Street, and then one that's slightly outside of the district in Representative Kay Granger's district that's over at Naval Air Station Fort Worth, which is a women's facility. Both are medical facilities, and part of the issue is a couple of things. First, at the men's facility and the women's facility, they just don't have the adequate space to be able to separate people adequately. They have put some measures in place, like, for instance, at putting zero pressure tents on the premises to be able to move people out of small dormitories where two inmates were housed together and move some of them into these zero pressure tents that are air conditioning, so the inmates can be able to have some better separation. All inmates have been given masks and are being tested. But of course, again, when you have people in that close of conditions that are that close together, I mean, it's just not good. And just as an example, when I was a congressional staffer back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and I first visited the Wichita facility, the men's facility there, the old dorms that they had one person inside of those old dorms. Now they have two inmates inside of those old dorms, and they're really not big enough for two people. And so when Fort Worth had the third highest cases in the men's federal lockups in the country, it didn't it didn't surprise me because they were that close together. And that's the one thing that's remained constant on what they've told us about COVID-19 is that people that are in close condition, where people are what they call spraying, and that is talking, sneezing, coughing, that this disease is spread very easily, and they seem to have the condition a little bit better under control now off of Wichita Street. The condition spread very rapidly at the women's facility at Carswell, and they're putting things in place to try to get that under control. I talked with the warden and the Federal Bureau of Prisons regional administrator last week about this issue. The other thing that people need to know about early release is that they're looking at lots of different things on whether or not an inmate can be released early. The nature of the offense, the inmate's behavior, like the warden, the regional administrator straight up told me, anyone that has been involved in any sort of recent assault, that wouldn't be a person that would be eligible, even under COVID-19 conditions. That would not be a person that would be eligible that was participating in an assault to be released anytime soon. But for people that meet the criteria that they're looking at, they absolutely are doing everything that they can to speed up their release and try and get these individuals to a halfway house or to some sort of house arrest where they're not in close contact with so many other people that are vulnerable. Now, if you have a loved one that is an inmate, please make sure that they go through all the proper steps that they need to with the Federal Bureau of Prisons to secure an early release. And if they're having trouble, then they should make sure that they write their member of Congress, wherever they may happen to be. An inmate may have been sentenced in Missouri, the inmate may have been assigned after sentencing to a facility in Missouri, but they may be from Fort Worth. And if they are, and they're from the district that I represent, then they should reach out to me so we can start an inquiry on their behalf and find out if there's anything that we can do to help them in this process and to make sure that all the protocols are followed and that they're being treated fairly. And so, yes, if you know someone that is in this situation, please ask them to reach out to me or whatever congressional district they happen to be from before they were incarcerated to see to make sure that all these protocols are being followed.
Thank you once again, Congressman. Appreciate the answer, and thank you so much for that question from Jackie. Let's get our next one up here. We've got one coming from Maria live in Arlington. Hey, Maria, thank you for waiting. You're live with Congressman Veasey.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Congressman Veasey, for this opportunity. We've talked in the past, and my concern and our concern in the community is we have continued to push the narrative of all our community mixed status, undocumented families to answer the census. But then when we get to those families, they ask us if they didn't take us into consideration in the CARES Act, what difference does it make answering the census? And so we go through that all along and explain how important the census is. And I was happy to see that your numbers have gone up, I think, to 49% now. But how are we addressing the need for those mixed status families and those students that are going to college and having a part-time job, but they're maybe not working and going to school, but their parents are undocumented or in mixed statuses? Are they going to be included in the next HEROES Act?
Now that's a good question. I mean, we fought hard to make sure that everybody could be included, but you have to remember too that we don't control the Senate, and even if Democrats did control the Senate, we would still need 60 votes to be able to get a package pushed forward that included everything that we wanted to. And so I would absolutely be in favor of undocumented families receiving HEROES Act money. Undocumented families put money into the economy. Literally every study that I've ever seen, and and Ray Perryman, who is a Texas economist, who was Rick Perry's right-hand economist when he was governor of Texas. If you look at what undocumented immigrants and their families take out of the social service system versus what they put back into the economy and helping make Texas stronger, that undocumented families are a net gain for the state of Texas and not a net loss. And so absolutely, we need to include them. But the way that the system works is that you have to be able to have willing participants on both sides to be able to get all of these things passed. And I don't foresee Mitch McConnell ever budging on being able to allow undocumented in there.
Thank you once more, Congressman. Appreciate your answer. Thank you, Maria. Great question. Thank you for being a part of our forum. We're going to get to our next one in just a moment. One more reminder, you can press 7 to get email updates from the Congressman's office. This will be your last opportunity to do that during this live teletown hall. So if you're not already getting email updates from the Congressman, please do press 7, speak to an operator, and give them your email address where you'd like to receive those updates. We're going to get our next question up here from Gary. Hey, Gary, thank you so much for waiting. What's your question, sir?
So, I had a few questions. One would be the unemployment. What are the qualifications for unemployment?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Why don't you go ahead and ask your second question there, Gary?
The second question is, why isn't anyone questioning, the narrative, being that our government had simulations such as, Event 201 and Dark Winter, which were eerily similar to the coronavirus pandemic. Also, the liberal, as that lady said, the way that they are counting the deaths, in a liberal sense, being that if you possibly could have died from COVID, you will be marked as a coronavirus death.
Got it, Gary. Thank you. Congressman, go ahead and take on those two questions from Gary, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Yeah, Gary, if you've been recently unemployed, you should need to call the Texas Workforce Commission and apply for unemployment. I mean, that's the way how that works. We are doing everything that we can to make sure that we can extend that unemployment to give people some cushion during this time of COVID-19. But if you find yourself unemployed, you certainly should reach out to the Texas Workforce Commission and ask for help. Again, and I don't want to get into any sort of, politics, liberals versus conservative. This is a pandemic, and it absolutely should not be partisan. I want to remind everybody that if you even go all the way back to the 80s, you may recall that a lot of individuals before we still don't have a cure for HIV/AIDS, but I'm sure that in the beginning of the disease, when AIDS was still considered a novel virus, that there were people that were dying in multitudes, and many of them did not die of AIDS. Usually, what you would oftentimes see in the paper was this person died of AIDS-related complications. You would rarely see that someone died of AIDS. It was usually some sort of complication that they had because they picked up picked up HIV or AIDS, and so that's there. If people that have COVID-19 and they die, they should be counted as COVID-19. I'm sure if someone dies in a car accident or something like that, they're not going to count their death as COVID-19. But people need to realize that these other health effects that you have can certainly complicate and hasten your death if you have COVID-19. I think it's really that plain and simple.
Thank you once again, Congressman. Appreciate that answer. Let's get through a few more of these questions. We've got about 10 minutes left here, so we'll take as many as we can in the time we've got. We have Robert up in Fort Worth next. Hey, Robert, thank you for waiting. What's your question, sir?
Yes, thank you for the call, Congressman. And my question is, during this time when essential workers are required or being asked to continue to be on the forefront of employment, and a lot of those individuals, they're younger workers and they have children who need to be sought after. So my concern is early learning centers throughout the country, and especially here in Texas. They're suffering right now because there's not very much money going into the system, yet those services are sorely needed so we can keep our workers that are going to work being able to work without worrying about their young children. Is there any plans to have more financial support for early learning centers? And plus, with education being as it is, a lot of people are opting to homeschool. So what about resources for distance learning in education and support for our early childhood learning centers? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that is a good question. I need to look into the early childhood centers to find out exactly what we're doing about that, and I can and definitely we can make sure that we get your information and follow up with you on that because I think that is a really good question. Our schools still need all the resources that they have to be able to educate our young people, and so there are going to be people that are going to opt to homeschool, and if they want to, that's their choice. But we still need to make sure that our young people have notebooks. Like, for instance, Fort Worth ISD, where my son attends, they have notebooks that they have, and, you know, the district needs to be able to pay for those notebooks, whether or not kids are going to homeschool or not. They have to buy a certain number at the beginning of the school year, and the teachers still have to be paid, and the other personnel still need to be compensated. And so I don't see a future to where we're going to give people money that are homeschooling, but for people that choose to do that, it's certainly their right as an American to do so. And in the bill that Democrats actually passed last week, we did include some child care in there. So if that's what you're asking about, early child care centers, we did put language in there to help with child care. If that's what you're referring to. But as far as homeschooling is concerned, I don't see any sort of formulas or any sort of additional money from the federal government that will go directly to people that are choosing to homeschool.
Thank you once again, Congressman. Great answer. Great question, Robert. Thanks so much for that. Let's get our next one up here. We've got Lindia, who has been waiting for quite a while here. Lindia, thank you so much for your patience. You're live on the line from Forest Hill. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Congressman Veasey, for all that you do. And I know that you work hard, and I want to thank you for taking the time out to answer my question.
Absolutely. Good.
My question.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. Okay, we all agree that the census is important, but however, it's based upon the April 1st deadline. Anybody that's in a household by April 1st, you're supposed to count them. Since we've had so many deaths since April 1st, those numbers are going to be skewed, so they won't be correct in any form or fashion. So what are we putting in place to make sure that we get accurate numbers for the census 2020?
To make sure that we're getting accurate numbers, and I thank you very much for that for that question. Absolutely. I mean, I've been briefed by the census, and they have told me that, again, they're going to do another round to try to get people to fill out their forms and to try to get them to do everything that they can, and that if for people that don't, that they are going to do everything they can to go door to door to be sure that people fill out these questions and that the Census Department get these responses so we can have an accurate count as possible. They have absolutely told me that. And in addition to that, because I thought the question that Maria asked earlier was where she talked about undocumented, not being concerned about filling out their forms. Remember, like anything that you answer in the census, it's sealed for 70 years. It's not going to hurt families. 70 years, 70. And so we need for people to know that they need to fill out their census. I know that whether it's for people whose families have lived in Stop Six or Oak Cliff or Grand Prairie or Irving or Forest Hill for the last 3-4 generations, or whether it's people that are newly arrived undocumented immigrants from different parts of the world, or legal immigrants from different parts of the world. I know that that people value education, that people travel all around the world to make sure that people who are people travel all around the world to make sure that young people that their young people and that their families can be educated in our system, and they need money to be able to do that. And so we need to all come together to make sure that these census forms are filled out, that we encourage everybody to fill them out as accurately as possible, so that all of our young people, no matter what their family's story may happen to be, that they will get the most dollars available so they can be wisely and best educated to be able to compete in our workforce.
Thank you once more, Congressman, for the answer, and we appreciate Lindy being on our forum. Thank you so much for your questions and comments. We're going to move to our next question in just a moment here. A few minutes left, so last call for email updates. If you'd like to get them, press 7, speak to an operator, give them your email address. And as I promised, I've got that contact information. If you still haven't filled out the census and you'd like to, you can do that again by going to 2020census.gov. If you need to call and you don't have access to the internet, you can call in English at 844-330-2020. In Spanish, you can call and fill out your census at 844-468-2020. So in English, 844-330-2020. In Spanish, 844-468-2020. Or 2020census.gov. Next up, we have Joe. Hey, Joe. Thanks for waiting from Dallas. You're live.
Yes. My question is, they still sending out stimulus checks? Because I haven't got mine, and I know quite a few people that haven't gotten theirs.
That is a great question. You should have received your stimulus check by now. If you have not received your stimulus check, please make sure that you reach out to our office. If you call our Dallas office at 214-741-1387 or our Fort Worth office at 817-920-9086, we will make sure that you receive the help that you need, and we can look into that to find out why you haven't received your check. We can't promise anybody that the inquiry that we make will result in you receiving a check, but if you have not received your check, please call our office so we can help you cut through the red tape and try and get that check a lot faster. I really appreciate your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. And additionally, Joe, if you didn't get those phone numbers, what you can also do is you can stay on the line in a moment here. When we wrap up this call in just about 2 or 3 minutes here, you'll have an opportunity to leave a voicemail message for the Congressman's office. So if you haven't received your stimulus check, stay on the line as we wrap up this call in a minute. Leave a voicemail message with your name and phone number, and make sure you say that you're having trouble with that and you'd like help, and we'll have somebody reach out to you. So again, you can just stay on the line to do that in just a moment. Let's get our next question in here from Merville. Merville, you'll be our last question tonight. We're just about out of time. Thank you for joining us from Fort Worth. What is your question for Congressman Veasey?
Good evening to my friend Congressman Mark. I want to join my voice in just thanking him for his service and his great work. He represents us well. My question is, given the disproportionate amount of members of minority communities that are affected by COVID-19, is there a federal effort to ensure that there are testing sites that are more accessible to the communities where we live?
Yeah, no, great question. We are absolutely doing everything that we can, whether it's through the federal government. I've been on the phone with representatives from CVS and Walgreens. I know that for instance, that there's a site real close to where both of us reside, that there is a site at the Potter's House, Fort Worth, that has been going year-round. That they have been going absolutely not year-round, but they've been going around the clock there, right off of I-30 and Boca Raton, and they're there every morning, and they're there until the afternoon testing people. And Gina Bivens, our city council person in Fort Worth, she has had several Facebook postings about efforts that the city has been involved in, free testing for recipients there, and we need for people to take advantage of all of these. We absolutely need for people to take advantage of these sites to go and get tested, and so that way, if they're sick, they know that they need to either go see a healthcare physician or isolate themselves to make sure that they're not making others sick, because again, this is easily spread. We're going to continue to try to push our federal partners to make sure that they have better coverage here in the Metroplex. But if you know of individuals that, again, need to be tested, please ask them to also go and work with some of those other partners that I just mentioned, like over at Potter's House, Fort Worth, like through the partnerships with the city of Fort Worth that Councilwoman Bivens was talking about, and with our drugstores that are offering testing, to make sure that people are getting tested and that everybody that wants to get testing does. Merville, thank you very much, and good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Merville, and thank you again, Congressman. Great question, Merville. Thank you for letting us close out on that one. And Congressman, I'll give it to you to make any closing comments here in just a moment. But one last reminder here: after we hear from the Congressman once more, we'll send you to voicemail if you didn't get your question answered, or if you have additional questions, comments, concerns, something you're struggling with, and you need help. Stay on the line. Leave those voicemail messages for Congressman Veasey's office. Make sure you leave your name and contact info, and we'll be sure to get back to you and try to help you as best we